Welcome to the Computer Repair Podcast, episode number 268, Scareware. I'm your host, Jeff Halash. This is our live call-in show where we discuss the ins and outs of running your computer repair business. Computer Repair Podcast is brought to you by Repair Shopper, the all-in-one platform created specifically for computer repair businesses. Sign up for a free trial today at repairshopper.com. And also by FreshBooks, the simple pain-free invoicing solution for freelancers and small business owners. For a 30-day free trial, just go to freshbooks.com/Podnutz. Enter Podnutz in the How Did You Hear About Us section. All right, let me introduce the co-host. We have John Dubinsky from the Maven Group. How you doing, John?
Great to be here, Jeff. Pain-free and ready to roll.
Amen to that. And also joining us, we have Curt Soderquist from CS Computers. How you doing, Curt?
It's doing good. A long time no see.
Yeah, it's good to have you on the show. All right, let's go ahead and share a couple of tips or stories that we could learn from. And John, we're going to hit it off with you.
Pretty quick tips this week. Number one, if you haven't realized it yet, Google has now rolled out their audiobook platform to compete with Amazon Audible. So I got a link in the show note. If you do some searching, you can get a free audiobook. And everybody gets their first audiobook for 50% off. So there's a good option for you. I'll have a link in the show notes with some details. I was browsing around and I ran into something that I thought was pretty cool that Microsoft is doing, and it's called Whiteboard. It's called Microsoft Whiteboard. And what it is you know how we can all collaborate on a Google Doc or a Microsoft Doc online. Cool thing here is exactly what it sounds like. We can all collaborate on a whiteboard, drawing, imaging, adding docs, adding text. So it's pretty cool. I actually used it in the customer setting, and it was really pretty neat. Projected up on a 100-inch screen. There's about 4 of us all working on the same whiteboard at the same time. So that was pretty cool. And last but not least, I'm going to put a link in these show notes for some Google cheat sheets. And while this sounds kind of common, it's pretty cool because it has everything for, I don't know, your Google Assistant, for all your Google commands. It has links to all the G Suite training. It has cheat sheets for Gmail, Groups, Keep, Calendar, Drive, Slides, Sheets, Forms, Docs, so on and so forth. So really helpful link if you're a Google user like I am. That's it for this week.
Awesome, man. Great list. All right, Curt, what about you?
Let's see. I think I'd have more of a tip, and this just happened to me last week. Was going to install a new 1 terabyte drive on a client's computer, and I partitioned it. I always do before I put it in a client's computer, and then I install Windows. And for some reason, when I go to install Windows 10, it was reading a 1 terabyte drive like it was a 256 megabyte drive. For some reason, it was consistent all the time. If I would slave it to another computer, it'd see it as a 1 terabyte drive. Plug it back in the client's computer, and it'd read it like it was 256 megabytes. So to get around it, I actually had to take the old drive they had that was still working, even though it had bad sectors, and I cloned it. And then it read just fine. Then it read as a 1 terabyte when I put it back in there. So something really weird. I don't know what was causing it. But once I cloned it, put it in, then it read just fine. Then it was a 1 terabyte.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Curt, what'd you clone it with?
I was using Acronis.
It's our normal go-to
for
cloning drives.
Yeah, older version of it, 2015. So, but it still works.
Okay, very cool. All right, and my tip is going to be actually an advertisement, and this will be the first time that you hear this on this show. We have an event coming up in Chicago. And it is called the IT Owner's Compass. Get help navigating your IT business. It's August 24th through the 26th, 2018 in Chicago, Illinois. A great place for everybody to get to. The event is presented by Lori Tishnai from Computer Concepts USA and Matthew Rodella from TechSite Builder. They have gone through a lot of putting this together on the ground, getting stuff organized, and this event is going to be like no other. We have our awesome keynote speaker, Mike Michalowicz, author of Profit First, The Pumpkin Plan, and The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. And you guys probably remember the when we talked about the pumpkin plan, I don't know, it was probably a couple years ago that we actually brought it up on the show. It's been a while. But if you have not seen Mike Michalowicz in person or in any type of setting where he talks to people, he's out of this world. He entertains, he educates, and he actually has a background in IT. He actually started an IT business years ago. So he's got the chops to talk about how to take your business to the next level. That is going to be awesome in itself. We also have peers and industry experts that will help you to be able to collaborate with and get nuggets of information. This is what this is all about, is getting together and getting nuggets of information and sharing ideas and things to help each other in our businesses. Right now, we're working on vendors that you can meet and get information from to help you in your business. This is going to be unlike any convention you have been to thus far. We have everything in one spot: hotel, venue, and a boat ride right on the river there. So that will be cool. And also joining us on that boat ride will be Mike Michalowicz, and you will get a signed copy of the Pumpkin Plan. So that will be cool. Did I mention that some of your favorite podcasters will be there also to meet in person? Mike Smith, Marvin B., Paco LeBron, John Dubinsky, and of course, me.
I'm out.
We're out of here.
So I will be there. If you have wanted to meet me in person, I know I couldn't make it to last year's events that we had at any given time during the year. So we've got this. I will be there in Chicago. It's a hop, skip, and a jump from where I'm at.
Already got my ticket.
Awesome, man. All right. So now, speaking of, I'm glad you brought that up, John. All right. What I need you to do as a listener of this show is I need people to buy in. And the reason I say that is because this is all about you. This is about you, the listener, you, the IT business owner, and we're putting something together that we feel will be beneficial and very helpful to you. And we want to keep adding more cool stuff. We want this to be an awesome event that you will not only go away from with plenty of nuggets of information, but you also go away from this feeling invigorated, excited, and ready to move on in your business. So what I need you to do is I need you to go buy your ticket. Tickets are only $199, which is going to be a steal for what you're going to get. All right. And also, I need you to reserve your hotel room at the venue. All right. So the quicker we do this, the more awesome stuff we can add. And I'm going to tell you right now, with the ticket sales that I understand that are going on, when I say this might sell out, there's a good possibility this might sell out. So this is a good business time or good business investment for you to make in your business. And I encourage you to do that. So go over to itocompass.com. You can get all your information right there. You can buy your ticket right on the website. You can go ahead and reserve your hotel room. And I'm going to tell you, for downtown Chicago, you will not get a better rate than what's on that website. So get it now, get it done, and let's make this an event that everyone will remember. Now, let me go on to another diatribe. For those that have been in the industry a while and are looking for the value add to your business, it's not just about you. I know. A lot of you think the world revolves around you. It doesn't. Okay. I can always learn from the newest person in the room, because I don't care who you are. As a human being, we get set in our ways. And I know I do. I've been doing things the same way for a long time. So this ITO Compass, IT Owners Compass, is going to be an awesome peer meeting with your peers, with awesome content that will be produced over the next several months. We're going to bring something to the table for everybody that we can all learn from, no matter where your business is at. All right. When it comes to, if you think that I produce this content on a regular basis because it's prestigious or makes me a ton of money, you'd be wrong, because that's not why I do it. I do it for the pure fact of being able to help other people in their business. That's why I do it. So to me, stuff like this is very important, and I don't get behind it unless I 100% believe in it. And I believe that everybody can get something out of this. All right. So one of the other reasons I do it is I see IT business owners working hard and looking for help, asking questions. And this is a place to get those questions answered one-on-one, peer-to-peer, and also help from other vendors and industry experts that are going to be able to give you that information. So those that are putting together this event, it's not about prestige or money. It's about bringing IT business owners of all shapes and sizes to collaborate, learn from each other and others on how to be better. We should all be striving to be better in our businesses, in our lives, work-life balance, all that kind of stuff. So go over to itocompass.com. That's itocompass.com. Get your tickets and hotel room, and we will look forward to seeing you there in August of 2018. All right. Now that we're done with that.
A little bit more. I'm almost done with my hotel reservation. Keep going.
We're going to take another quick break, and then we're going to get to our main topic anyways. All right. Our show today is brought to you by Repair Shopper, the all-in-one platform created specifically for computer repair businesses. It was developed by Troy Anderson, who owned his own computer repair MSP business for 10 years, which prompted him to create Repair Shopper. He found himself using multiple tools day to day just to be able to run his business, and realized it was taking time away from doing what he loved most, serving his customers. We love Repair Shopper because it contains all the essentials: point of sale, customer relationship management, ticketing, integrated invoices, estimates, and payments, plus powerful extras like built-in marketing and reporting tools. It truly is the most complete computer repair business solution available. It's also fully customizable to fit your shop's workflow and integrate with a variety of tools like QuickBooks, Slack, and Kabuto, to name a few. Their support team is great and will give you a full walkthrough of the system when you create an account. Check them out at repairshopper.com, where you can sign up for a free trial. All right, this topic for today was brought to us by Curt. And he brought this up and said, let's talk about Windows Defender, as far as it's coming out and saying now that Windows Defender is going to start getting rid of things like Scareware that pop up on your customer's computer and says, hey, call this 1-800 number, we're Microsoft, or whatever, or click on this link and go over here, or whatever that might be. So, Curt, what was your thoughts on what this may do to help us, or what this may do to harm us in this industry?
Okay, so we all know that Microsoft's perfect. Nothing ever goes wrong. Patches don't break anything, that kind of stuff. So their big deal now is that they believe that they're going to come up with a program where they're going to add definitions to Windows Defender in order to stop the scareware. My problem I see is how many legitimate programs that us technicians use, even for monitoring people's computers when we're using our remote management systems and so forth. You know, what are the odds that Microsoft is going to see it and they go, oh, wait, we see a pop-up, boink, it's going to remove your program. And what's going to happen? We have to reinstall our program. I know Microsoft is trying to get as many technicians to try to submit as many programs as possible so they can hopefully try to eliminate that. I just don't see it. That's just my opinion. I think it's going to cause more chaos than what it's worth. They may be good at other things, but when it comes to Windows Defender is okay as an antivirus. But I think this update that they're going to provide, which is supposed to be in the next 30 days, I'm thinking it's going to cause some issues for techs when we're trying to run our RMM programs and things like that. So, you know, if you guys got an idea or if you think I'm wrong, go ahead. But otherwise, I think it's going to cause some issues just through their plan, because with all the pop-ups, they're going to come up and people are being like, well, it tells me I got 5,000 things wrong and I got to pay $49.95, you know, and that's what Microsoft's trying to focus on, is getting rid of the scareware. Well, what's going to happen like myself, I use Kabuto, and I have it set up where it pops up in the window every 2 weeks and it says, hey, is everything on your computer running fine? If you have any questions, send me an email or give me a call. And it just kind of reminds the client, hey, I'm still looking out for you. Is it going to cause an effect with that? Is it going to try to pull it out? You know, so I'm kind of curious on some feedback, which the other guys, you know, might think. But I think it's going to be kind of a messed up disaster.
John, being as you're the guy that really has to put out the fires in a lot of cases when companies try to help you out, what's your take on this, on what they're trying to do?
Well, I think I have some good news for Curt, to be honest with you. So this has actually been available in Microsoft's antivirus products that enterprises can use for some time. And most of us users, little users, didn't know that you can actually turn this on already through a registry script. And you have been able to for a while. And the only reason I learned about it is through UVK, because they have a checkbox button to turn it on. So I did some research. I don't disagree with what Curt says at all, because obviously I think we've all run into the issue with any antivirus for which we've ever used, where we go to run our tool and all of a sudden it says our tool is some sort of threat and automatically blocks or remove that. So I don't disagree with Curt at all that we could very well run into that situation with Microsoft just being another barrier to us trying to provide good service. But let's start back at the beginning. So really, if we wanted to find scareware, you know, scareware is that malicious software that Curt mentioned that, you know, tries to trick the end user into visiting another site, purchasing a product, or going somewhere infested or infected. I think, just in my opinion, based on what I see in the industry, and I'm going to refer back to Malwarebytes on this, that Microsoft's product is only going to be the watered down version of this, meaning it's only going to get those things that are pretty darn obvious. And the reason I say that is because if you go back to Malwarebytes, what I would think most of us would agree probably is the industry standard on getting rid of pups, PUAs. Okay, I better go back because I know how you get, Jeff. Pups, potentially unwanted programs, PUAs, potentially unwanted applications. What are other things? Adware, spyware, slimeware, browser hijackers, grayware, crimeware, whatever you want to call it. They are actually getting sued by a few companies or litigated against because they removed these applications. So, you know, I don't know illegally how Microsoft will do that, but I know if you can Google it and you can see like Enigma Software, who makes Spy Hunter, is in a little battle with Malwarebytes right now, because I believe Malwarebytes automatically removes Spy Hunter. Now, I'm not making any litigious claim against Enigma Software or Malwarebytes in this case, but I just don't, and I think Microsoft is a much bigger target than Malwarebytes. I mean, I don't think Enigma would go after Microsoft, but I don't think Microsoft is going to put itself in a place where it's going to remove any sort of legitimate software. And that's just I guess my 2 cents on it.
Now, let's be fair. When you think about things and there are automations inside of products that work, that will remove stuff automatically, but most of the time, there is still user interaction. And I think this is where their cautionary tale kind of goes away. When it comes to something like Malwarebytes, you know, it's going to go, okay, we scanned for this, this, and this, and this. Do you want to get rid of this? You know, if you're doing a full scan on your system. Now, it will block certain websites and certain things that are known to be bad. I'm in agreement with both of you guys, is that it could be where Microsoft goes at it a little bit too hard and is removing pop-ups. But here's the problem that I really have. Number one, if you're running an RMM software, I don't believe that RMM software should have any sort of pop-ups anyway, to be honest. Outside of things like Kabuto, that's known, we're putting it on the system, it's going to pop up just to let the customer know, hey, we see a problem. Do you want to call your technician? That type of thing, right? But it's going to be hard to see how they're going to, how these antivirus companies that are notorious for having pop-ups come up on a regular basis, whatever, to give information, to do whatever. This is one of those things that's hard to stop. It's like the advertising on the internet. Stopping drive-by bad advertisements that have gotten into a third-party software that is put on a site that you visit on a regular basis. Most of the time it's fine. Every once in a while, you might get something that's not fine. So we're always playing this fine line between protecting the customer, but also being able to use our systems in the way that we want to use them. And that's always going to be the catch-22. And I think you're right, John. I don't think any of these companies, including Microsoft, are going to be too overly aggressive. Now, to Curt's point, could it potentially break things? In my opinion, all software breaks things at one point or another. That's kind of, it's just the name of the game. And if you think about it, as frustrating as it is, that's what keeps us in business.
I am with Curt, though, that I think if there's a good balance, if Microsoft does this in the right way, I think this will be a nice blessing for us. Maybe, well, depends on how you run your business. I mean, if there are some of us, on an hourly basis, which would love this to break something, I guess, if you really think about it, me as a managed provider, if this removes problems so I don't have to do anything, that would be fantastic too. Now, I'm going to ask both of you this, and maybe the guys and gals in the chat room is, I am seeing, and maybe it's just because of the endpoint protection I'm using, but less and less of this. If I went back a year, I would suggest that I saw this kind of scareware all the time. I'd grab a PC and there would be power PC booster or speed up your computer on that computer. I would say that, 1 out of 10, 10% of the time would be a fair assessment, if not more. I am seeing that very rarely now. And I don't know if that's because I've moved to a different endpoint protection product. I now use Malwarebytes, and I have for a few months, or if that's just the way the industry has gone, and now we've shifted from this kind of scareware tactic, which started over a decade ago, and now we're on to ransomware or things that the bad guys are finding more lucrative, or if it's just my customers aren't seeing that, and maybe this is still a big thing with residential or something I'm not seeing. Can either one of you provide feedback, or maybe somebody in the chat?
I know for like residential is going to happen more often, I think, than it is in business. In business, you're going to have a lot more controlled environment. And I'm sure that's something that you have for your clients, John. You have a lot more control over it, and it's more businesses. But like I said, residential, you still, you don't see it as much as you did a year ago, but it is still around. I see it here and there more than anything. I just see a lot of junk programs that people download because supposedly they tell them it's going to fix their computer, and they just download it, or it comes with some other program that they downloaded. But right now, it's not as much, but it does still exist, considering that most of my clients, 90% of them are still residential.
James in the chat made a good point. I'm seeing more what I would call junk Chrome extensions and that sort of thing than I am, quote unquote, a scareware install anymore.
I would say from my standpoint, it's probably lessened in the last 6 months. I used to get calls from the same customers on probably almost a monthly basis, like every 4 weeks. Hey, this thing popped up. I didn't mean to click on it. I clicked on it, and now it took over the system. Now I've got to go in and fix it. So I am seeing less of that. It's hard when you tell your customers don't click on any pop-ups, yet we have programs that are legitimate, which are why things like Java don't get updated, or Adobe Reader, or whatever, because they really need to be managed in the background. But that's a whole nother story. So I'm definitely seeing less of it. It's hard to say what's going to be the best way to go with this. Now, John, do you know, are they turning it on automatically in an update?
Supposedly in March, pup detection is supposed to be on by default.
Okay. So you could still shut it off then.
that I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be a checkbox or not. Like right now, there's no way to shut it off. You have to use a registry hack to turn it on, and you can reverse the registry hack to turn it off, but there's no like checkbox somewhere. Or you could use UVK to enable or disable it.
And UVK does that registry hack automatically, right?
Automatically,
program?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's very nice. Good to know.
There's a lot of cool things
I'm not
in
sure.
the program hidden under the sheets.
Yeah, one of these days, John, we're going to set aside some time, and in our Facebook group, we're going to do a live demonstration using UVK and do a walkthrough of that product. I know there's people that use it, and I have it. I have a paid-for license, and I've used it a few times.
I'm all about that. Fred does great work over there, so amen.
Yeah, very cool. All right.
Good program.
So is Microsoft trying to help us? I think in the grand scheme of things, I think a lot of these companies are trying their best to help us. But again, it's that fine line that you stand between of being able to use your system versus being totally locked out. John, from your standpoint, especially on the business side, it would be best almost to go in with a firewall that basically blocks everything on the internet, and you just open up the places that you want people in that business to go. And those places would not include like Facebook or things like that.
Well, that's what Steve Gibson always says, that we did this backwards, that we allowed everything and then blocked the bad things, where we should have allowed nothing and then just allowed the good things. If we had it to do over, that would have been the way to do this. But, to Microsoft's credit, this is not their first swing at this. I mean, way back when, they had policies that were, I don't know how they enforced these policies, but said, you weren't supposed to be able to do software like this or be able to install software that misclassified files or did anything devious and all that. This is the first time I think they've actually stepped up and said, if you break this policy, we're removing this software. And I think they're doing it from a competition standpoint, because I think users, if we look at market share, this has not been a problem in the past on like the Apple platform. It is now. I see a lot more of this type of thing happening on the Apple platform, and I'm sure they're thinking of ways to do that. But has been so much more common on the Windows side in the past that I think Microsoft is. I think that is one of the reasons they're really trying to step up, because it's probably, when they do their focus groups, it's probably one of the biggest complaints they get.
One of the things that I need to do, and I have not done this yet, is I need to look. This is just my opinion from what I've seen, and it might not be true, but I would say that most infections probably still happen the majority of the time in the email client, in a link, in something of that fat. It's not. We hear about the scarewares, we hear about the crypto viruses, and those are out there. But if you look at the percentages of people who have botched systems, who don't have maybe the crypto, ransomware or anything like that, they're probably the major infections. I think a lot of times are you giving permission to something via a link or going to a website and doing something nefarious through that link.
I would suggest that's where my percentage of infections come.
Okay.
Two biggest problems were either that, clicking on a nefarious link, which has really gone down because most of our customers are G Suite business users, and Google does a pretty good job at filtering that mail, but it still does happen. Or the problem with users just simply using the exact same password for everything they do, so that if one account gets compromised, instantly everything they do everywhere is compromised. So
that'd be another good show topic, is talking about password managers, because I don't know that any of us use them to the extent that we probably should, because when you look at things like password managers, you're looking at things like having to teach a customer to use that.
Well, here's a great idea for that to help our listeners, is we should do a show that we post on YouTube that is more geared to something that they could send to and play for customers, talking about password management and password managers. I think that would be sweet.
That's a good idea.
Then we would save everybody a lot of time on having to create something like that for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Very good.
So put that on the list.
It's on the list.
And our free.
Well, you know.
Okay.
In my free time. So, Curt, is there? I mean, I understand your your thought process on Windows Defender, kind of going in screwing things up. As far as removing software and things like that, I still think you're probably going to have some sort of interaction from the end user. Are you sure you want to do this type thing before they just arbitrarily get rid of it? When you look at things that Malwarebytes blocks, well, it depends. If you look at things like Malwarebytes, when they block things, a lot of times they're blocking websites that they're trying to come in with something like that. But when you do a scan on them, you still got to go, hey, yeah, get rid of all this stuff, or wait, let me uncheck this, or let me, you got to check what you want to get rid of. So maybe that stops the litigation there. I don't know.
Right. Well, with the Malwarebytes. Yeah, go ahead. Okay. You want to go first, John?
Go ahead, Curt.
Okay. So with the Malwarebytes, like I don't have any paid for version. I've only had a few clients that do have it. Even though I used it for a tool for, I don't know how many years, 16 years or more since I've been doing this. The free version or whatever, but I never use a paid for version. So you'd have to tell me, Jeff, with the paid for version, does it automatically take care of it for you?
Some.
Okay.
And I guess that's my point. Some it does.
Okay.
But whatever it knows about us.
Right. Yeah, because I never used a paid for version before. We've talked about it before. Us techs love to have stuff for free. So, but yeah.
The main difference between the free version and the paid version is the paid version tries to be proactive, meaning prevention versus reactive when you run the free version to remove what's already happened. Right. We should spend a couple minutes talking about maybe how to avoid scareware and the rest of the stuff we're talking about. Just at a purely base level, there's basically 4 things you do to try to stop this thing. The first thing would be whatever DNS you're using, like Google DNS or Quad9, or there are paid versions of this. What is Cisco Compass, I think, used to be Open DNS. I forget what it's called. And what's the other one? DNS, I think it's called, which I've been looking at, which looks really nice. But, a lot of the time your DNS will help avoid the sites that are hosting this or propagating this. So if you use a good service, not the one provider provides you, because they probably do not do this, use a quality DNS server, even the free ones. So that will help. The second thing you can do is your UTM or firewall device will help with this. Because even like this 300 level switch, if you combine that with an Overseer Pro device, so that, I forget so it's $200 for $250 for that AN300, a business class firewall or router, not a UTM. It's about $100 for an Overseer Pro. So you get about, let's say, $350 in this device. Combining those two together, your little Arachnus will actually do some UTM stuff, meaning it will do filtering for you. It will, do a lot of that for you, or you can even do site filtering like pornography and all that kind of stuff. So whatever you're using as that edge point security will help with this, your UTM or your router. The next one, Jeff, I think number 3 out of 4 would be email filtering. Whatever product you're using, Office 365 or G Suite, they do a pretty good job on their own. And then if you feel the need for it, you can always layer something else on top of that. So another filtering service. AppRiver has one. So you could do that. And then finally is whatever security you're using on your endpoint. Like I use Malwarebytes endpoint security on all my endpoints. So, through that layered approach, and there are other things you can do, but I would say those are the basic 4, which I think minimizes, and you can do a lot of these even at a home customer. I mean, just use Quad9 DNS or Google DNS, use an Arachnus router. Gmail does a pretty good job for email filtering, and get them a Malwarebytes Pro subscription. Bad news is if you bill by the hours, you'll probably never hear from them again for that kind of problem, but you can feel good that you've done it, right?
More money in your pockets.
Anything else you'd add to that list? You guys are in the chat.
I'll tell you what, while we're coming up with that, let's take another quick break and talk about our second sponsor of the show. Our show today is brought to you by Well, FreshBooks. Small business owners, it's time to be honest about how you feel when dealing with your day-to-day admin work. Admit it, you can't stand it. It's a total grind. Truth is, over 5 million small business owners felt exactly the same way until they discovered FreshBooks. FreshBooks is the dead simple cloud accounting software that's transforming how small business owners handle their paperwork. Nobody likes paperwork. They've got invoicing. Using FreshBooks to create and send an invoice literally takes about 30 seconds. There's no formulas or formatting, just perfectly crafted invoices every time. Online payments. Your clients can pay you online, which often means you end up getting paid a lot faster. It's easier to click a button and just put in that credit card and call it done. Project deposits. There's a super handy deposit feature so you can invoice for a payment upfront when you're kicking off a project. Insights. FreshBooks can even show you whether or not a client has looked at the invoice you've emailed. Now there's none of this, hey, did you get my email? Oh, no, I didn't see that email yet. Do you know whether they're lying or not? This is only a fraction of what FreshBooks can do for you. You owe it to yourself to feel the full effects of FreshBooks on you and your small business. If you want to try it out, go ahead for a free 30-day trial. Just go to freshbooks.com/Podnutz. Enter Podnutz in the How Did You Hear About Us section. 30-day free trial. Can't beat that. All right. Is there any other things that we could do to help mitigate? Yeah, I want to talk about one thing real quick before we go back into that, though. One of the things that Marvin B. and Mike Smith were talking on the last Podnutz Pros, they were talking about the email filtering and that more spam is getting through and that the bad guys are becoming a little better at crafting their emails to get through the systems. But everybody that's been in this industry for long enough knows that when it comes to spam and what gets through and what doesn't, there's ebbs and flows. There are certain times during the year when you will get more spam email that's coming through. And then once the entities that be Office 365, AppRiver, all these different email filtering systems that are out there, they will be able to take that and they tweak it and then those go away. And then the bad guys will figure out another way to get to the system and you'll see another surge until that's taken care of. It's just part of what we do. To be 100% proactive on that, I don't know if that's going to be a reality or not. It'd be nice, but again, this is why we get paid to do what we do.
Root8 in the chat brought up another good addition to that is a good ad blocker in your browser. Never hurts. Don't forget to unblock those sites you want to support, i.e. podnutz.com. But I do every PC I visit or every PC I touch, I do add an ad blocker. I usually use AdBlock Plus just because it's pretty simple.
So you've got AdBlock Plus, you've got uBlock Origin, you've got
AdGuard.
AdGuard, yeah.
uBlock, I would say, might be, I haven't looked at it in a while, might be a little complicated for the average user. I just like AdBlock Plus because you just click if you want to unblock it, maybe uBlock works the same way now. You just click the stop sign and say, don't use on this site. So it's the support, yeah.
I like easy to use. I'm with you there. And anything we can do to mitigate, that's not going to slow the customer down, but it's going to mitigate any problems that we might have, in my opinion, is worth it. When these things start getting in the way, that's when I go, maybe we need to back off on that and maybe try to find something else. But there's only so many things, you lock your door to your home, you close your garage. The reality is somebody could bust your windows open and get in very easily. It's not hard. And so we do what we can to keep the bad guys out, but we're not going to be able, unless you build a castle with a moat around it, you're not impenetrable. And even then, all you got to do is fill in the moat and you can kind of walk across and get in there anyways. So.
Well, even with your moat, even with your castle walls, you can still get breached, I guess would be the term. So, we want to add those layered defenses is another term we use.
Yep.
Right.
Curt, you were going to say something?
I know one of the ad blockers that I use on here is I use Stan's Fair ad blocker, and you can whitelist the sites that you want to support and block everything else for the other sites. So that's just to throw that out there.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because I've never heard of what's the name of it again?
Stands, S-E-N-D-S, like you're standing.
Okay, stands. I thought you said stands. I'm like, we got stands. Joe's ad blocker plus Rick's. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Stand. Okay,
Yep,
I've never heard of
stands.
that one. Now, how'd you find out about that one?
I was trying out different ad blockers here about a year ago. And some of them weren't very good. There was like ad blocker, of course, and then some other oddball ones. And it seemed like when I would put that on clients' browsers for Chrome, they would still have issues, like either it wasn't being updated or it wasn't being continually supported. Whereas Stands, they've been really good about it because you can actually go in, you can pick and choose which sites that you like and say, okay, these ads are fine. And go to another website and, oh, I don't like all these pop-ups that keep coming up on my screen. And then it'll block all those and it'll just count everything for you up in the corner and let you know how many ads it blocked. So it's a nice program. I mean, check it out if you want to and just see what you think of it. But okay. I like it.
Now, here's the thing. One of the things that I do on a regular basis is if I'm going to a website and it has a bunch of pop-ups that pop up in your face and block whatever it is you're reading, I understand that I could use an ad blocker. But because they've done it poorly, I figure the information I'm getting on there is going to be poor information anyways, so I just move on to something else. Now, if you've got ads on the side or at the bottom or out of the way, and I can read the article and go through it, I have no problem with that because I understand that that's how they get paid. But the ones that pop up in your face, it's like, yeah, you're dead to me. I don't want nothing to do with you. I'm moving on. And it's surprising to me that people actually find the information on those websites actually valuable because I equate it to if you do business one way, your information is probably going to be the same way. Crap equals crap. That's just the way it is.
Yep.
John?
Crap equals crap. Is that what the shows come to?
Yeah. All right. Is there anything else that we could cover on any of this stuff as far as I think we've named the things that you can do to mitigate this as best as possible? And just this is another thing, too, to let you know this is going on so that if you do have problems here in the near future, like in March, then you'll understand that there's some other things that were put in place. And when it comes to Microsoft, I believe we're chasing it all the time anyways, because every time it comes up with a new update, especially the 6-month major updates, they're usually borking one thing or another. And that's because there's way too many programs and different things out there that don't like to play together at the same time, I guess. So from that standpoint, again, it's why we get paid to do what we do and take your troubleshooting skills to the next level.
That works.
All right, let's go ahead and let me, we're going to take another real quick break, and then we got some emails we can answer. If you would like to support the information you're getting from this show, then I encourage you to go to patreon.com/computer repair podcast. We appreciate everyone that is giving, and that also gets you the ability to get into our secret Facebook group where we share information and back and forth, not only things about the show, topics that people want to talk about, but also things that people are doing on a regular basis that can help each and every one of us or remind us of things. Or if we have a question, there's a lot of times people are asking questions and getting answers from a great bunch of people that are all like-minded. And I want to thank our newest Patreon supporter, Mike Lacerda. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. And I want to thank all of our Patreon supporters for your continued support. All right, let's go into the first email. It says, hey guys, this is Nathan. You mentioned free training that Google is offering through Coursera for IT certification. And I see that Google might be subsidizing it. But when I was looking at the course, they wanted $50 a month for the privilege of using their site. So I don't have a straight answer yet. If you guys find any more info, please let me know. I'll be listening and keep up the good work. Guys, always love keeping up with tech news. Have a good one. Thank you, Nathan. And I have not gotten any information back on it yet. I know Paco was looking into it as far as signing up. I didn't realize, I thought it was like $50 one-time fee. I didn't realize it was $50 a month to sign up for that course for IT training. Do you know anything about it, John?
I do not. Paco and I had this conversation. I'm waiting to hear back from him too.
Okay. All right. So I'm not sure because quite honestly, for $50 a month, you could go over to, help me out here, guys. What's the IT training center? Watch videos all the time.
IT Pro TV.
Thank you. IT Pro TV. For cheaper than $50 a month, you can go over there and actually get part of that program and go through all kinds of, certs and learn all kinds of different things from hacking to, networking. So, yeah, it would be surprising if it was $50 a month, but that might have been a typo too. So as soon as we find out, we will let you know on this show. And Curt, I didn't even ask you do you know anything about that at all?
Well, I remember you guys talking about it here.
Okay.
The last time, but I read into it a little bit, but not too much because I got distracted by other stuff.
Squirrel.
Yep. Shiny keys.
All right, John, this is an email that came to yourself and me, or me and yourself, or me and you and me. All right, so I'm going to let you go. I'm going to read it real quick and just kind of go over it, and then I'm going to have you kind of went back and forth with this person on what your thoughts were. So a customer got a scary letter from trustwave.com with a deadline. Can I get a human on the phone at Trustwave? No. Looking for options leads to get customers covered. They quoted January 31st, a deadline if pertinent to the show, folks. In accordance with the latest PCI scanning standard that becomes effective on January 31st, 2018. Thanks, Rick 400 TEC. And so this had to do with compliance, which I know absolutely zip about. And John is the compliance meister. So
I
John,
slept at a Holiday Inn last night, so I'm ready to go.
There you go. So he sent an email basically what they said, and you've received this communication because Trustwave has determined that your external vulnerability PCI scans will be impacted by an upcoming change to the PCI external scan rules. This finding is based on your blah, 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 blah.
All right, stop right there, because that's the point we're going to talk about that he should be interactive or involved with his client. So what they're talking about is a PCI external scan. So what these companies do, like Trustwave or Control Scan, OpenEdge or XCharge, which are now the same company and all that, is they will do a port scan. So they will get your IP address of your customer, so the internet-facing IP address of and scan that to look for vulnerabilities. And they actually do a pretty good job because they'll actually look at your equipment and then report back whether they feel you pass or fail their test. So what he needs to do is log into the portal. So he needs to talk to the customer, get the information to log into the Trustwave portal, and then within the portal, it will allow you to schedule these scans for your customer. Most of the time, they're recommended or they are required to be done quarterly. I usually set them up on a monthly basis for my customer. But then what happens is the scan happens, the scan passes or fails. If it passes, the customer has to do what's called a test, basically say, yes, I see that it passed and we're doing everything you tell us to do, sign off on it. If it fails, then that means there's something I need to do. A lot of the times that will have to do with maybe a piece of equipment on our end needing to be updated, like maybe the router or UTM device needs a firmware update to fix something in an SSL version or a TLS version or something like that. Or maybe there's a port open that the customer needs opened. So Trustwave may scan, see that port is open, and then you'll fail. So two things, either you'll need to close that port or you'll need to justify why you have that port open. Perhaps you're running your own mail server or something inside the business. So you'll just have to say, yes, we're aware that that port is open, but it is secure, and this is what we're using it for, that sort of thing. So it does kind of sound like a threatening letter, and it will be a threatening letter if something is not done, to the effect that usually what will happen is on the monthly statement that the customer will receive is they'll have a penalty charge of some amount. I've seen $25, I've seen $250 for failure to be PCI compliant.
Now, who sets up this TrustWave to go in and check? Is this just an automatic compliance thing that somebody is scanning the internet to find out who needs to be compliant, or did the customer set that up?
It usually works through your merchant. So you work with a merchant, your merchant then uses somebody like TrustWave to verify your compliance.
Gotcha. So they're doing the checks and balances, and then you've got to comply or justify why you're doing certain things that way. Okay.
So the important message I would say to you and to myself and to anybody else listening is you're not providing the compliance. You're providing the technical support for them to be able to become compliant.
Okay.
All right. You're not never sign off on a compliance letter. They sign off on that. If you want to do that, and there are MSPs and there are businesses that do that say, hey, we'll take the responsibility for your compliance. Make sure you're insured to do that, and make sure you're charging a boatload of money to do that.
Yeah.
You've just subjected yourself to a ton of risk. So, help your clients become compliant, but don't be the certification for that compliance.
So one of the other things that came out of this is also Rick was talking about, he was looking at on-site LAN testing and things from like rapid fire tools to be able to test. So in this particular case, is that something that was needed or not really in this particular case?
Well, it really depends on let's circle back to TrustWave. TrustWave actually has, depending on how your customer is engaged with them, a solution that you can download, usually for free, to do that.
Okay.
It's kind of like the other tools you were talking about, and a lot depends on the customer you're dealing with. You could go, you could use those tools from Rapid Fire, which are kind of pricey, or you could just do the basics and go over to grc.com and run his port analyzer tool to get the basics. So, that's a good, if you want to get a feeling how things are working, just go to grc.com and run his port analyzer tool. And that'll show you if your ports are open, closed, or stealth. Stealth is the best way, or the best result you can get. Or you could get those rapid fire tools. You're going to pay for them. Also, in a lot of the applications, the RMM apps like SolarWinds, they have something that's built in as well to help find some of this compliance information as well. Continuum does too, I believe.
Okay.
So,
very good.
There's a whole gamut of products to service that need.
Gotcha. All right. Well, at least they're making it, fairly simple. I mean, it sounds like the availability is there to be able to get the tools, but it also sounds to me, kind of like you said in the beginning, a threatening letter where all of a sudden you're like in panic mode going, hey, what do I do? And if you don't know.
Well, I don't want to underplay that. And, it's important for them to become PCI compliant for a lot of reasons besides just the fine. The other thing to look at, is you're protecting financial data. Obviously, you're protecting the reputation of that business. So really, the burden of the PCI compliance is the annual certification that the customer needs to go through, which can be anywhere from a 10-question questionnaire to a 200-question questionnaire, depending on where you get categorized on how you are doing your credit card. So if you store credit card numbers, you fall in a different category versus if somebody else is doing that for you and you don't store any of the financial information. But, on some of the compliance audits that I've seen, requirements for cameras, I've seen requirements for all of this stuff in order to be able to get the green light that you are audited and good to go for the year. So,
wow. Okay. All right. Very good.
One of my customers actually has a requirement for a FIM, which is a file management program. So, it just depends on how they do business. So instead of buying a FIM, they changed the way they did business, and now they store no card data. So,
okay. Gotcha. So there are ways to mitigate and get around some of that stuff to protect everybody on all sides.
Well, the best thing to tell your customer is to, figure out if they can do business with storing no card data. that's the best way to do it.
Where
To
it just
simplify it for the customer.
yeah,
So some
would-
third party is doing all of that.
very good. Curt, you don't do anything with any type of compliance at this point, do you?
No, not really. I'll probably get more into that if I keep growing and things like that. But with me, it's just a one-man shop, so not right now.
Well, so is John.
John's got this mindset that can just expand. Mine doesn't go that far.
See, when it comes to
I'm just lucky.
when it comes to compliance things, the way I look at it is I would rather stick 2 forks in my eye than to deal with that stuff. So I'll just, I'll go deal with the easy stuff. I'll leave John with the hard stuff.
There you go.
Well, let's be honest about it. I mean, the compliance stuff, I'm 50-50 on it. I mean, it is forcing a lot of people to do what they should have been doing in the first place. True. I mean, it is your responsibility if you're holding somebody's personal, medical, financial information to protect that information and at least give some sort of effort to protect it. I mean, now, does it suck the fun out of the business, meaning our business and for a lot of my customers, the business? Yeah, like my dentist, all they want to do is fix teeth. They don't want to, I mean, it's literally usually requiring another person to spend a lot of time to document and become compliant. The hard part is not what we do. The hard part is what the customer has to do with all the documentation, paperwork, and all that kind of fun stuff.
Ugh. Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's, yeah. God bless you, John.
He has. I'm on the show.
All right, let's go into the third email. It says, I have been using HP ProCurve 1810G-24 switches for my business clients, and I have 3 of them that I use on my home network. I like them because they're very quiet and have a lifetime warranty. I normally purchase them on Amazon. Today, I had my first experience with replacing one under warranty. I was skeptical of how the lifetime warranty would work. It took a while to get the right website and return it, but I looked up the warranty and it actually shows that the switch warranty expires in the year 2110. I'd say that's a lifetime warranty. Within about 15 minutes of placing an online service request, I got a phone call from HP and the replacement switch has already shipped and will be here tomorrow. They never even asked for a credit card. Not bad for a switch that cost me probably $250 on Amazon. I've heard John talk about Arachnus networking equipment. I talk about them too on your show several times and have searched a few times to find a source for the equipment. Obviously, Amazon is not selling them. Yes, thank God. Can you provide some information on what your source is for the Arachnus equipment? Do switches you normally have CLI support? I like the HP switches I've been using as their managed VLAN support, but I think I would be interested in stepping up to something with a CLI interface instead of just web management. Approximately what would a good 24-port gigabit managed Arachnus switch cost? What is your preferred model? Thanks, Rod Q. Miller from RQM Consulting LLC. Rod, appreciate the email. And we just had a show with Elena Martin, who's an account manager over at Aisle 8, where we get our awesome Arachnus products from. And it's show 267. And the audio portion should be out here shortly, but you can go over to YouTube / Computer Repair Podcast, and you can find that show is up and available to listen to. As far as we definitely won't talk about the prices and what is your preferred model. If you go and listen to that show, you will see that there are so many models that you can use that will fit different types of things. It's not one size fit all, which I've seen a lot of IT business owners do. And I've seen this personally. Somebody will come in, they'll give a quote to a company, and they will basically go, "Oh, you have a 24-port managed switch with PoE on all the ports," and they never looked at it and said, "Yeah, there's 24 Ethernet cables plugged in, but there's only 6 that are live." I see this all the time because nobody wants to take the time and effort to go in and actually look at what may look like a mess and clean it up and do it properly. This is where you can win on those things. So there are different models that you can get that are going to be good for different size customers and for different needs. And they're coming out with cool things, cool new things all the time. So as far as going over there, you can go to On Aisle 8, and it's ONAISLE.com. And AISLE8.com. And you can basically sign up to be a partner and get the pricing over there and check out and see what they have. So we talked about it on the show, 60-day money back guarantee. You don't like it? Hey, all you got to do is send it back. They'll give you your money back. So I encourage everybody to go over there and give it a try. John's been using the equipment for a long time. I started using it sometime last year, and I fell in love with it. So it works for me in my small little home network, and it's what I provide for my business customers also. And when the need arises, I will also provide it for my residential customers, because it's better to go with better equipment that's going to work all the time versus so-so equipment that's only going to work some of the time.
Well, here's the great thing about Aisle 8. CLI is command line interface. So he wants to get down to a prompt so he can do command and programming via prompt. I'm looking at the 210 series. I'm not sure if it has CLI or not, to be honest with you. But the great thing about Aisle 8 is just call them.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the primary reasons I like them. I mean, besides, I think the products are good. I love Overseer, which is huge for me, just to manage by eye. But, you can call them and just have a discussion about this. And it's very easy to, we got a little ad in there, just touch base with them versus, trying to get a hold of Cisco to get this question answered would be, you're going to have to, set aside some time. But, just call Alana. She can answer this question in a heartbeat. If not, she'll put you in touch with a tier 1 or tier 2 support agent that'll be all over that in a heartbeat.
Absolutely. Now, I know that that's Rich Compute. It says Aisle 8 is not Canadian friendly. And yes, I apologize for that. There is one way you can solve that problem, though. Just move.
Sorry, Rich. Yeah, that does suck. But I don't know if there's any way around that. I wonder if he's talked to them about it.
It's hard to say, and I don't know. I don't pretend to understand all the red tape that goes between countries. To be honest with you, being in North America, it should be simpler, but the governments on both sides do not make it easy. And if you think your government's a great government, yeah, you have another thing coming. It's just the way it is. And I can't explain all that, but sometimes that stuff is just not. And it all depends on how many people would actually use that. So there's that.
I'm sure that if they thought they could make some money selling up there, they would be. So, it's just like when you buy a Dell server from distribution here, at least when you buy from Dell Direct, they say you can't export it out of the United States. You'd have to buy it from a Canadian distributor or Dell Canada, just because probably some of the software licensing or products in there are probably licensed only for the United States is probably what it comes down to.
Right.
But again, then I'm pulling that out of so we'll leave that at that.
All right. Well, I think that was the last email for this show. So definitely, if you want to send emails, you can definitely do that by going to just sending it to podnutz@podnutz.com. We can answer them on air, and also you can definitely check out the chat room, and we get questions and answer questions and interact there also.
Well, I want to go back to your Patreon thing and talk a little bit about the Computer Air podcast group on Facebook, because it was a pretty cool week. Bob Beeman had that checklist post, which was pretty awesome, which made me laugh out loud, and then think how many times I've epically failed on that. I saw you comment on that, Jeff. And then Jason had did you see the post on monitoring his, he pulled his screens up so that he could see them on his webcam, so he could see the results of the diagnostics before he went back into the office on Monday?
Yes, that was cool.
So I thought that was pretty cool. So any guys not in there, or any guys that are in there that are active, please keep posting. It'll be
Absolutely.
It's a great group, and I love interacting on there.
Yep.
Very cool. Thank you for that, John. Curt, if people want to know where to find you or get a hold of you, where would they do that?
The best way to get a hold of me is my email, which is going to be Curt, C-U-R-T, at cscomputers, which is plural, .tech, T-E-C-H.
Awesome. That's a great URL there. All right. So, John, where can people find you at?
Well, if you want to get me directly, just shoot me an email over to john@mavengroup.net. But if you got a question and you think it might benefit everybody else, post it in the Computer Repair Podcast group out on the old Facebook.
Say that 3 times fast.
Hold on, let me get another drink here.
Curt, I appreciate you bringing this topic to us. It was definitely well worth talking about and just kind of having that discussion and seeing where we're going to go with this. So
Definitely.
Yeah, great topic, Curt. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
All right, come join us live for the Computer Repair Podcast every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern over at podnutz.com/CRP Live. Yes, I shortened the URL because the other one was way too long. You can join in on the conversation by hanging out in the chat room. We have a blast in there. You can send an email, like I said earlier, to podnutz@podnutz.com. You can just send an email and say, hey, you guys are doing a great job or whatever. The emails are kind of trickling a little bit. So I'm looking for some feedback here. Every once in a while, we gotta smack the microphone and go, hey, is this thing on? Is anybody listening? What's going on? No, I know you guys are doing an awesome job. And I know when I was listening to these shows, I was guilty. And so I'm just getting my due of not sending in email questions and things like that they could get answered. But yeah, keep them coming and we will answer them live on the show. Or if you want, and we had some technical difficulties this week, but you can normally leave a voicemail, which we can play on the show. And even if we have technical difficulties, we can figure it out. You can do that by calling 734-335-1000. All right. I want to thank everyone for listening and subscribing to the show. We'll see you next time on the Computer Repair Podcast.